Welcome, everyone, to another Thursday's New Teaching Show. Once again, I'm joined by Laura Massey, Dale Tobin, and the Grand Master of Light Language, Maty Waller. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello, everyone.
So today we are talking about soul shards. There is a backstory to this particular show. It has taken 8 months to come to fruition. Long ago, when the team was young and they were still fighting the gremlins of the microphones, I began to tell them stories about how shows would go and what people would watch. And then I had to explain to them about over-lightworking questions. Do we remember this, guys?
We remember it very well.
Very well.
It was the first show that Dale and I wanted to do, and you wouldn't do it.
And then it got that you would do it, but then it just kept pushing forward, and it came January, and we mentioned it again, and it was just like...
It was like
now it's a dirty word. Now it's a dirty word, right?
We mastered the art of chopping salad, but now it's time for a change.
You wouldn't do it.
And toss some salad too.
You wouldn't do it because you didn't want it like weaponized and made into like lightworker.
It's not weaponized as much as people just like a soul shard is a Lego piece to a big puzzle. It isn't. Okay? It's not hard to understand when you get your lightworker out of the way. Lightworkers just sit there and do nothing. It's the actual you that has to comprehend and understand things. The lightworker doesn't do jack and shit.
Yeah.
Okay? So with that, put your lightworker salads together, and we are going to go and start asking questions.
Okay. Andrew, describe not a lightworker. Describe a soul shard.
That's a lightworker question.
It is. He wants lightworker questions.
I'm waiting for that.
How about this, Laura? You answer the question. What is a soul shard?
Okay, so it's an aspect of your soul, a light body that's either become sort of detached through trauma or other reasons, or, as you explained to me last night, can actually still be within your energy field, your I am presence, but not fully integrated. Or
not integrated at all, completely forgotten.
But not forgotten, okay?
Mm-hmm. Or in a state of forgetting, and then you have to remember it.
Okay, and is the work to retrieve soul shards? Because we have a hierarchal order here, don't we? And we are the apex of our hierarchical order with our 2 feet on the ground now in this I am presence. And is it that all the other shards of ours have to integrate into us eventually?
See, that is a domination perspective of soul shards. Do you own every soul shard? Technically, no.
Okay.
Aren't we shards?
Okay, there are shards that are completely independent of you. Okay, completely. Even though they were part of your birth, they went on to do something else. That's natural in multidimensional living. So what we should really focus on for the short term is what are soul shards through traumatic events. That's the lens all too often people over-receive, overuse. So there can be soul shards that are non-traumatically created for many different reasons. Often those become external roaming light bodies with their own existence. And when you invite them in, they come to you as guides and teachers and other aspects. When you're dealing with a soul shard that's been from earlier childhood trauma, that's a very young version of you suspended in a frequency of time, just outside of time, constantly trying to get back into your aged body. And that's the tug of war for control of the body. Okay? And then there are shards that are so far gone, they have no idea how to get back to the body. And this comes into that perennial term, soul shard retrieval, psychic surgery. All that stuff comes from that. Somebody journeying and making a portal to reconnect the two and begin the reintegration process if the shard is ready. Dale, on your journey with medium, I'm sure you've met shards that didn't want to go back.
Yes, I have. Met many different versions of shards and how you work with the ancestral homeworlds and the grandmothers and grandfathers, and they assist you on bringing those, or you journey to that soul shard, bring it back. Sometimes they want to come in, sometimes they don't. But as I'm kind of like putting it back into the body, it's always integrating. It takes a while to bring it back and get it fully back and healed and everything. So they're all different, and they're all got so many different like personalities and agendas and so on.
So, Maty, in your experience with soul shards that are traumatically created, what can you say about them to give people a unique definition for a soul shard that came out of trauma, created out of trauma?
Well, most of them turn out, well, in my perspective, from what I've seen, turn out quite destructive. And they can actually almost demonize and begin to work against you. So I've had them come through as almost like alternate personalities. That can switch on and off at certain points, and it can be just like a completely different personality to the one that you have. I don't know, what else would you like me to say about them? Because it's, for me, a lot of mine have been about quite positive soul shards, and some of the other ones have just been parts that I've had to find the correct way to remove. But it's not like swatting a fly.
The moment you shared an experience with me where you just had one of those moments where you were at peace enough that you could begin to perceive the shard.
Yes.
And it didn't come to you out of a negative process, but the journey of getting it back into you had to be a positive process. Right? So, and I know you've had other profound experiences, but that still sets up, it was trauma that created its separation from you.
Right.
Separation from your internal dialogue.
That makes sense. And it was a process of trying to remove all of the other programs that I have in that kind of experience, because even as a psychic, I still develop psychic programs that work with my psychic abilities. So I had to remove all of that from myself and just allow the process to slow down, and one foot at a time, next foot at a time, and then just felt the whole thing come in. And then as soon as it was locked in, then I just use light language to lock it in, because sometimes I feel that they kind of don't quite lock. They shudder slightly, and then use light language. Yeah, but that for me was a profound healing. I mean, I walked in the door. I literally went in the back garden and stood there for a while, I think, to have a smoke. And when I went back inside, I was a completely different person.
Yeah. So there's a question from the chat room: is fragmented self the same as a soul shard? Yes.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between a shard or a fragment? Technically, a shard is smaller than a fragment. And a fragment will have different shapes and densities. A shard is generally something that's brittle like glass, or metal that's very cold and then is shattered. Got it? Different ways of breaking up. So Laura, when you're doing ancestral expressions and doing ancestral connections, are they not technically soul shards too, if they're previous versions of you?
Yes.
They're just not coming from the negative aspect of their creation.
No, and no, they're not at all, because they're also where I get my inspiration and the language I use and the actions I use come from somewhere. So yeah, so I'm guessing yes. So they're soul shards as well. So what?
Here's where that term light body works.
Yes. Okay.
Instead of referring to a shard that has a negative connotation behind it, it is a light body that wasn't created through a destructive process. A positive process created it, even though it was separate from you until the time you could perceive it, because it is a layered reality. And it took a while for you to get into the ancestral feelings and frequencies of the grandmothers, to trust it enough to allow it to be in your sacred space long enough to know that its agenda is not harmful to you.
Okay. Yeah. So what are the mechanics, whether like negative or not? So let's say, what are the mechanics of when trauma is created and part of your life force or part of your spirit leaves to create this shard because they can't cope with what is happening within this iron presence within this body? Is it literally that? Is it literally it leaves your energy field?
Torn out.
Okay.
The trauma itself, where somebody has to check out because it's too strong, is physical shock from the actual action being done, which then ejects the full spirit out of the body and fully takes over the programs. But the programs panic because they have no control. And so what happens, the vagus nerve keeps a little bit of the line onto the body outside and siphons and harvests the fear, and it responds to the fear the body's going through, which then validates the separated trauma that the parasympathetic won't allow the ejected part back in. And so the ejected part can heal the parasympathetic, blocking it from coming back in. And that's the defense modes we create. It's a natural defense mode.
So did the shards... Sorry, go ahead, Laura. No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, can they be also like archetypes? Like I definitely had a martyr shard.
Yes. Now that is as much ancestral karmic debt.
Okay.
Okay, that's what created it. The debt itself and the way to get to the resolution needed to be a spiritual teaching for you.
Mm.
Therefore, you needed to have those shards in your life to go through that experience to come on the other side with a greater wisdom.
So when you talk about potentials in crown chakras, Andrew, is that what you mean? Is it kind of the connection to the soul shards that there are many?
No, it's more like if they were to heal their character flaws and integrate their shards, these potentials would be there.
Yes.
Okay. They're not there because those particular things exist as future blockers. They block a particular future because it'll require you to be in your body long term, making long term choices.
And so does the shard take on, because obviously they are existing in other dimensions, so will they change their dimensional existence when they become a shard?
Now we're running into lightworker words, which is not your fault. There's no words to describe this.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the term I've used. We live in the layered the uni-world we live in is a layered reality. Shards go into layers we can no longer perceive. Now, they still live out aspects of their shardness, but they can't perceive us back. There are shards that can perceive us, okay? And it will require us to be aware of them to make the connection for them to return.
Are we like the light at the end of their tunnel that's there?
It could be both. It could be both ways. They could be the light at the end tunnel for us, or the other way around.
And do they take on human form? They believe, well, not human, but a being in their own right.
So in that layered reality, they're a part of the ancestral North Pole realities. Are they technically on the North Pole maps? Yes, but it's extremely difficult to get. Those are the high density dream worlds, not cities, and some of those can be nightmare dream worlds. Like, going into Mordor to take the ring to Mount Doom. Okay, the Ring of Power was a shard of, yeah.
Yes, and I rescued someone close to me, didn't I? I rescued their soul shard from a demonic dream world.
People have those things all the time.
And
it reminds me of...
Many of us are doing it in our unawareness as well in dream time, helping our loved ones. Like that?
Yes. So planes, Planes, is an airplane, and we're talking planes, Plains, dimensions. Yes. You're getting it.
And I remember last October when I was speaking to you, Andrew, and I did a session on Laura actually on one of her future soul shards where I had to go forward in time, and this is when I started understanding soul shards on a much deeper level and the awareness of what they do for us and how they can create different potentials in our reality. So I had to go and counsel one of Laura's shards, and I had to sit them down on a counselling chair and say, look, you need to sort your shit out, or you need
to slow down, basically.
You need to slow down, baby.
Was it a general who was marching forward all the time, carrying the banner or the flag or something?
Yes, it felt like a general, but it wasn't a general. It just had that energy of a general.
Yeah. Wouldn't sit still.
So there's another question from the chat room. These are good ones. Can one person's soul shards exist in another person?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Oftentimes parents, when kids are going through traumas, will store shards for them later. But that runs into a multi-dimensional super fucked upness when you add in severe ancestral debt on the parents. They have to be the perfect parent, but no one's ever going to be the perfect parent. But that's the nature of the ancestral debt. Okay, you have to thrive to be that. And if not, you take on the shards of the child, and the child generally betrays you at some level, gets into drugs, gets into that. And after a while, you have to let them go. Or if that child dies, you're then holding on to a shard and not allowing that soul to cross over. So that all fits into the grand scheme of life and death.
And
Now, can people completely you don't know at all store a shard for you? Yes, that can happen too.
Oh, that's horrible.
Okay? It's all about how gullible the shard is, how much wisdom it has retained in it. Is it bored? Does it even know it's not part of you anymore?
So you know the process of codependency or a narcissistic domination relationship or something like this. Would certain beings like that take a shard from another being?
Yes.
In their unseen world?
Feed off of it too.
Is this part of karmic debt?
Yes. It's not the whole enchilada, but it's a big part of karmic debt. Yes. It's an infrastructure and system to reduce karma.
What about ghosts, Andrew? A lot of ghosts just shards when they go for that crossover, about to cross over. Do any of them like kind of split and just decide to stay?
Kind of like the governments breaking up. Yes, that does happen too. When you have major life issues going on, you have mass exodus of the parts that you've given up on. They're like, all right, do we have to go for you to find it in yourself? And that's why people are like, I'm depressed, I have none of this, I do none of this. It's because you gave up on yourself. And those positive shards that were giving all that energy, you can't even speak to them anymore.
So different personalities that you can show, or different facets or aspects of yourself, are really shards.
Or light bodies. Shard
bodies.
Is generally a negative term. We're running into the lightworker chef salad here. You got ham, you got turkey, you got all this dressing mixed up, everything's all there. So if we just understand shard generally is interpreted through negative perception. Okay.
So if you have an aspect of yourself then, or a shard that's not working for you, say like the martyring shard, that's when you do the inner work and raise your frequency, and then does it naturally leave the body, like often with a bit of trauma like it did with me, or can it just naturally just leave the body because it's not holding the same frequency as you?
Generally with martyrs, they hold on till you take the power out of their cold dead hands. Very rarely does something just leave because it's lost power. It's programmed to stay into the bitter end, to defend you for its original purpose. There are ways to counsel it out of that and to fire it and all sorts of other things, turn it back into its original process. Like the person was saying, martyr originally meant witness. It hasn't meant that for like several hundred years. It generally be those that are sacrificing aspects of themselves. And in this psycho-spiritual terminology, we are calling it a theme inside a person's reality that is detriment to their greater growth. They will self-defeat and sacrifice or martyr themselves for causes that are never beneficial to them.
But sometimes it's set up for our own growth, isn't it? Sometimes we set this up before we come for that to happen, for our own learning and evolution. Yeah.
So, Laura, here's an example. Before we started doing the shows, you had a bit of an issue with technology. Remember, I told you everyone's going to have the issue.
Yeah.
And the last 3 shows in a row, you didn't have any issues with it. It was Dale's turn.
Yeah.
Okay? That's an
Brilliant,
example of the
Yeah.
fear that you had before that not only did you overcome through by repetition, but you actually did the work on it too.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
made a
You
huge
learn it.
difference in your natural confidence.
You learned how
Yes.
to use a mouse finally.
Yes.
What do I do with my mouse?
I'm going to tell you after the show.
That's not a mouse, that's a snake.
Yeah, see? She's a different Laura to the one we first started with.
Thank you.
Those aren't balls, those are track balls. Okay, so that's an example of you doing the work and integrating the fearful part of yourself that you had to technology that was creating that self-defeating energy that was martyring you from the greater cause of going and doing your work, because all the technology was always in your way until one day you recorded your own show and you're like, hey, that wasn't that bad.
No, that
And the
made
next
all
was
the
your-
difference.
right.
Yeah.
It's downhill skiing from that point because you had the big aha.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Now, if we translate that into people doing inner work, you got to recognize aspects of yourself that have a feeling of being external. And if they are, okay, how external? How long has it been since I've communicated with this shard? Have I ever? And if you're one of those people who's never done any work whatsoever, you're going to have to learn to have inner dialogue and outer dialogue. It's a natural part of human living. There's nothing wrong with talking to yourself, especially when you're listening to your actual words and discerning them and understanding the nature of how the subconscious can respond.
Yeah, because
Can I ask a
even
provocative?
people- Go on, Maty.
I want to ask like a slightly provocative question, but I think I've just had a brain fart. It must be your turn, Laura.
Okay.
Let me see if
sorry.
it comes back.
Even people who aren't spiritual say, "Oh, I must talk to that part of myself that does this,
Yes.
this, and this," don't they? Yeah.
You've raised kids, Laura, all you guys there. You see them having those moments where they're trying to figure out their own little reality when they're 1.5 to 3.5, and they're in out loud to inner dialogue. And they don't know the difference between one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We just lose that somewhat as we get older.
I still do it.
Yes.
I jabber onto myself all the time.
Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes I realise I'm doing it in front of other people. I'm like, oh shit, and I feel embarrassed. Yeah, but it's just such a part of my repertoire that it's who I am.
And that's it. And so many people are used to reading other people. A lot of people can't turn it inwards and start reading themselves. And that's one of the great ways to master yourself. And a lot of Reiki practitioners or psychic surgery practitioners, they master and know how to read other people. But as soon as it comes to turn in, it's really hard for them.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens, Andrew, when, let's say, for example, you've got a person and we're going to character as lightworker type, who doesn't actually do any real self-inner work, but they go to see somebody who does soul retrieval, something that they feel, they have this feeling they've heard about soul shards or something, and they go to
Like you.
this healer.
Like you, like seeing
yeah.
somebody like you, or Dale,
Yeah.
or Laura, or
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, and then they go back to their life and just carry on. What happens to that soul shard that's being brought forward? I mean, I'd be pretty confident that I could lock things in, but obviously it wouldn't be a done and done,
So
would it?
people undo healings all the time.
Right.
You all know that, right?
Yeah, I've
Okay.
seen it many times.
There is a
Got it.
level of disbelief. There's a level of broken faith that no matter how much the worker tries, they will reject it like an organ transplant.
Mm.
Because they're not going to do the work to balance the journey, that 3 to 5 to 7 day journey it takes for that shard to actually integrate and
Yeah.
stay sacred enough long enough. But there are
And
times during sessions where we can hold the window of sacredness strong enough that we can put it back in there and weld it to the frame.
Yeah.
Okay? They may
Yeah.
rust it off, acid bash water, destroy it later, but you did weld it back on.
Yeah.
And Dale, you know what I'm talking about, welding things back in.
Yes, very familiar, and the amount of times you weld things in and it works, but the amount of times you do a fucking incredible session and they have an amazing time. 4 days later down the line, they're back into the old way, and it's like they've completely just throwing everything out. Like, and all these programs coming and they're into the programs Agent Smith mode again.
Right. Agent
That's
Smith
why.
mode.
That's why I
That's why
always say to them, I always give people tasks to do afterwards. Must do this. Do this for this amount of time, and just to allow them so that they have at least a bit of sacredness in their life, or allow that to actually the healing to actually work properly.
Okay, so let's look at the anatomy of a light worker. We had that in the text earlier. A great title. So, what is a light worker from an anatomical point, an energetic anatomical perception? Your standard light worker who's going to do truly nothing for themselves long term. Get what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So when they're doing a 5-minute prayer on their way to work, or they're taking a crap and decide to open a book, and they believe that's making something safe. Okay? This is what I like to call the 9-volt battery. Okay? If you operate on a 9-volt battery and your ego believes you're plugged into the wall with endless amounts of power, what ends up happening in your energetic world?
Get burnt out.
Things take over the energetic world because you have
Yeah.
no strength of willpower to know what's your natural internal dialogue or external dialogue.
That's why a lot of light workers get hijacked, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they don't know what's them and what isn't, do they?
They when I look at them and they're the way that their face begins to change, it's not unlike drug addicts. It's the same sort of with the sunken eyes, and you can just see it on somebody when they're martyred to that level, but believe in their heart that they're a good person, and it's so destructive. No, they're not good people. You know what I mean?
In that moment, they are a good person.
Yeah.
They just can't maintain the good person because of the shame, blame, or guilt that's still inside them.
Yeah, and the miseducation about diet, about what frequency actually is, and the ability to actually be in the world as a human being.
Well, the biggest thing is they don't take the sacred neutral path, do they?
They can't because they're stuck in polarity.
Yeah.
You can't have a neutrality amongst polarity. What does polarity do to neutrality? Tries to overwhelm it to become polarity.
Yeah. Neutrality is in between polarities. So they're two completely different things. I guess the moment that you go into any form of polarity, you're no longer in the neutral.
Correct. That's why maintaining the sacred neutral state as a long-term emanation and expression of you is by doing it every day as long as you can until it's never a chore. It's a blissful process to do for yourself. And there will always be things that push you off the road or into charge and polarity. It's about letting it go at the end of the day.
Yeah.
It's understanding it's information, isn't it? It's just information. Yeah.
And that's how you maintain stronger, rigid neutrality by going, all right, I had my time with it. Now let it go.
Exactly. And when I'm in those moments where I'm like, wow, the ego is really not running, but the ego is having a good go here, and I may be behaving a certain way. I always know in the back of my mind, well, I know that forgiveness moment will come and that it will happen. I already know it's already on its way. So it just takes the destruction of it down and the power away enough for it to not, become a shard.
Exactly. Not or just keep making it more and more little shards, and you're grinding away at that goodwill until you're no longer that good person because you ground it away into a bunch of tiny shards.
Yeah.
Looking back at our former self, Laura, in the Lightworker days, like the amount of triggers I had like 9 years ago compared to how I am now. It's just so funny some of the shit I used to do back then.
Chasing synchronicities.
Yes, 222.
So Angela's why is neutral sacred? The Bible says to be hot or cold, but never lukewarm. Well, this is not the Bible first thing first. The Bible is its own expression of all of those subject matters. Sacred neutrality actually comes from indigenous teachings around the world. It's the common term of letting go of charge and polarity in a form to be present with the planet's celestial forces and energies, which is not following a religious order.
Information will not change you.
Right. Information will not change you. Or you return to the state information did change me. Now I have to unchange myself and return to that sacred, because the change represents taking on a charge in polarity.
Yeah, which we do need to do as part of our journey as well. Like Dan and Maty were saying about the lightworker days, we had to go through those extremes, through those polarities, to learn sacred neutral. It doesn't make it wrong. It's better if it's part of your journey rather than your entire journey being in polarity.
Every failure is a step.
Use it as a stepping stone.
Yeah. So every failure is a step closer to success.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the lightworker here a second. So, Laura, yesterday you had a unique experience when we were talking about a subject. Yeah. So, I'm going to bring that up for you here for a second. So let's just bring up the idea of a general lightworker out there who's never really given themselves any true effort. Now, yesterday we were talking about doing contract revocations in an accent or another voice style.
Yeah.
Now, I told people to do this all the time. Why is it that you should do your revocations in different forms and voices?
Because it will show you other aspects of yourself that are waiting, like in my case, to come to the forefront, to come to the stage. That's what it felt like for me.
Right.
And
before we get into that, let's just try to describe that part of the journey.
The part of the journey of what, that light body coming to the fore.
To give Andrew a whack on the back.
Revocation.
No. The journey into using the voice.
Oh, the journey into using the
Remember,
voice.
there was a giggle in the voice. There was a unique happiness in the voice.
Yes.
Okay.
There was a lightness and a strength that I didn't have before, because I've had the serious sticks stuck up my backside.
So you decided to do a posh Laura. The poshest posh you could ever do. Yes. And you're doing the union and communion consciousness strike.
Yes.
So you not only had the joy of the consciousness strike, something you've read 1,000 times on your own in many different forms of sacred energy, you were now using that posh, stick it to the world, funny aspect, and a giggly euphoria was behind the words, which then elevated you to the point that you could realize that posh Laura was real.
Yes. Okay? In that joy, that's what raised the frequency. If you want to use like a terminology, it was such joy and so different and such fun that suddenly, I was reaching new frequency levels, which then led me to understand, like through chatting with you, that is an aspect of me. If it's coming from somewhere, right? If you're doing these voices and things like that, it's coming from somewhere.
Right. Now, yesterday, Dale and I witnessed you have a conversation between Laura and Posh Laura that was naturally in flow for about 5 full minutes. And you didn't break yourself, didn't think about it. It was absolute pure two of you in conversation. Yes. We learned she was roughly in 1933, but had access to her memories in the 1970s. Yes. Okay, because you began to explore the soul shards that aspect of you's perception. But once again, it's that happy, joy, giggly, unique, euphoric frequency behind doing it in the posh voice that triggered the next level for you.
It did. Yes.
Yeah, it was a holy shit moment when you were doing it. It's like, fucking look at you, Laura. Your light just started.
So I highly recommend people go and do some kind of accent training. Okay? You can go online and how to speak like a New Yorker, how to speak like a hick, how to speak like a foreigner. There's all sorts of online accent training classes that are there for free. Okay? Why are you learning an accent? To explore different powers of your own voice. Okay? With that, I want to give people an example, Laura. So you have posh Laura and regular Laura. And I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I'm doing it on purpose here.
That's all right, darling.
I knew this was coming
so
today.
We are going to take questions for posh Laura in her other timeline. Okay? And then Laura's going to interact. So the first question, I'll give the first question before something from the audience comes out. So posh Laura, what do you remember about the Queen of England's when you were around?
You're talking to Posh Laura now, yeah? Sorry.
Yes, but you have to talk to her answer back.
Oh, darling! Oh, the Queen. Oh, so the Queen of England. Yes. Now let me see. So she came to the throne. Oh gosh, darling, she was so young. She was so young, and she had to take over and had all that responsibility put upon her. But you know, they were such gay times. We had such good fun in those days.
Okay. What do you remember about world politics from your time?
Oh, Howard was always up at the House of Lords. It was very, very busy. We had a lot of stuff going on, and we had to give a lot of parties to diplomats and entertain them.
Okay. So, Dale, go ahead and ask Posh Laura a question.
So what do you do for fun then? What's your idea of fun on a daily basis?
Charades, darling, I play charades. Oh, it's such fun. And we do cards, and we have gatherings, and we have silly masked parties.
Okay, Maddie, your turn.
Do you do any magic?
Yes, but darling, don't tell anyone.
Do you know that we're live on a show with a few hundred people listening?
I know, it's my perfect stage, darling. I'm loving it, absolutely loving it.
Okay. Now, Laura, what does it feel like when Posh Laura talks back?
It feels fun, but there is a part of me that is like cringing.
Sure, because it's that full posh energy that you're allowing in.
Yes, it is. It is, and I can just see all the light workers in the chat. Well, they're not here now, but later on, and well, anyone can do that, you know. And so that's also, you know, because even though I've done work and I'm doing work, there is that element of self-doubt that Posh Laura is trying to banish. She doesn't want that self-doubt there. She just wants to have fun. And part of me is trying to interfere with the Posh Laura, thinking I have to give her like dates or incidences from what you're asking. And in fact, if I was able to get into the full flow, probably like I did last night, that wouldn't be there. But because it's on a live show, there is that little bit of edge to it, that little bit of nervousness. You know, of being judged. And I know I teach people about don't take on other people's projections and judgments, but at the end of the day, the four of us here are still human, and that happens as well. So I think we're fully relaxed, the four of us. I can just go into it fully. On a show, it's just, yeah, I can do it. I'm just slightly aware of projections.
You can do it, darling.
Now, something else to think about it when you're allowing the two voices to go back and forth, like yesterday's perfect flow. You weren't in your way.
No,
there's a part of the serious you who has a fun limiter inside you.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
You've reached your level of fun. You go any higher, I have to disrail this thought process.
Yeah.
And you're getting regular attempts to disrail the thought process because you're having too much fun. No more fun for you.
Smack on the nose with a rolled up newspaper time.
Right. So that's also going around in the background. Okay.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay. So let's just look at the part of you that's the no fun monster.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's have it talk. The old cratchety old woman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's bring her forward instead of Posh Laura.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the thing is, you're just gonna look a right idiot when you do that on a show. You're going to get loads of comments from people who are saying, well, anyone can do that, anyone can put on a voice, and you can. You just, you could just be putting on a voice. And that's all you're doing.
Now have Posh Laura tell her the real way it works.
Darling, the way it works is, at the moment, I've got the mic, I've got the stage, right? And you can take your serious stick and you can stick it right back up your soul shard arse, okay? Because this is my moment, and I have waited a long, long time for this moment to step forward and say, I am Posh Laura. I've been trapped inside a serious body, and for goodness sake, now she's starting to let her hair down. Let her do it, because she does it so well when I'm here. And when you're involved, quite frankly, darling, it's boring.
Booyakasha.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Has anybody got any questions for Posh Laura? Come on, let's see some in the chat.
We're going to market Posh Laura. You can have sessions from her.
Oh, I'd pay for one of those.
Actually, I think Posh Laura's really fun. I really
Yes,
like
she's
Posh
that aspect of the unbridled fun.
Yes, yeah.
She is the opposite energy of the stick up your ass. There's the no stick energy.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She doesn't give a monkeys.
Yeah. She's in British high society. Her butt's been dealt with for a long time. Been chewed out, set on fire. Okay? She's got a hard taste.
Yes, she has.
Even with her husband
Posh
always
Laura,
away.
do you know, I tell you what, Posh Laura drinks and smokes. She's got a cigarette in a long holder, and she loves cocktail parties, and she's very dressy and classy. I like that.
Yeah, someone to look up to.
Yes. No, she laughs, and that's the fun of it. That's
All right,
the
so
fun.
you now just had Posh Laura, an aspect of you, talk to a shard of you.
Yeah.
Okay? The old crotchety Laura has been trying to take over the corporation, but can't. Okay?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I want you to have Posh Laura. You're going to make Posh Laura in charge of your human resources. Okay? And you're going to have a firing of crotchety Laura. By Posh Laura.
Okay, right. Crotchety Laura, stop hovering outside the door. Come in. Sit down. This really will not take long. I am tired, so tired of your seriousness. I really don't want to go on like this. Laura and I are having far too much fun. And we're going to continue having fun, darling, but without you. Now, I'm so sorry. We don't really mind where you go, as long as it's not in our energy field. So quite honestly, darling, just bog off. We're quite happy on our own. And from now on, Laura is just going to have an amazing time. We have so many parties to go to, so much catching up from being so boring and serious and being Miss Goody Two-Shoes and the 50s housewife. No more. No more, I tell you. There's no more of that at all. So, goodbye. Close the door behind you.
Don't let the door hit you on the ass.
What does she have to say to 50s housewife Laura?
What does she say to 50s? Actually, she doesn't really mind, because 50s housewife Laura actually has got some potential she quite likes.
Yeah, they're soul sisters.
Soul sisters.
Yeah. So what happens to the shard in that process then, Andrew? So is a shard reduced to 0 minus infinity, or does it integrate and actually become a part of the mechanics?
Let's look at Laura's shard. She just did it. We all have a psychic ability. Let's break it down. What happened to it? It had its power stripped from it.
Yeah.
Okay, what happens when a program has its power stripped from it?
It has nothing to exist on.
It's either going to choose to be alive and move on, or it's going to accept it was a shard and be integrated without any control. Now we get back to what's a soul shard. Is crotchety Laura going to go on to someone else and help them? Probably yes. Another member of the ancestral soul family. That's the offering that when you set crotchety Laura free, she can go and deal with anyone else in the lineage who needs a crotchety aspect.
And this is so we could see ourselves as shards in that respect.
Sure, the different versions of her. That crotchety Laura can go backwards or forwards in time. She's not limited by time anymore.
And it moves through the soul or the DNA lineage.
More like the higher soul is doing, shifting, human resources from one Laura to another, from one company location to another company location.
And can you talk about, as she's talking to her, because I remember yesterday, Andrew, she talked about the World War II and it hadn't happened yet. How was she able to talk about that again? What were the mechanics?
Because she had access to her memories, so that means what Laura was talking to was one of her who was on another timeline. It's like we don't live on one single timeline. We generally live on 12 to 17, sometimes 30 for a short period of time. So it was another Laura at another time, but not all things happen at the exact moment in time.
So when we skip timelines like that, when we move through timelines, do we have different shards on different timelines?
So let's not call them shards, call them aspects.
Aspects.
Okay? Aspects with different purposes on different timelines. Some of those aspects come in with contracts that allow their timelines to be manipulated by governmental technology, both on-world and off-world. A greater part of the layered reality we are unaware of because of the forgetting at birth. But still a part of the greater spiritual contracts of the layered uni-world we work in. Naturally, humans, if there were no domination control, we'd naturally be living in 20 to 30 different places, each with its own body, its own life, its own group of experiences. Okay? But we'd all be connected to all of those experiences. They're all us, without separation or competition between them. They're your own collective of yous.
So when
operating in the layered reality.
So when you talk about someone, say he's like a forked source stream or someone who has another version on another galaxy or universe, is that just the same mechanics and a soul shard, or is it different when someone decides to bifurcate?
So
yeah, that's what
you have a soul coming in to a egg and sperm. At that moment, there is another egg and sperm somewhere else where the stream goes into simultaneously as one set of unified spiritual contracts from two separate worlds' births. So you have one person born in one world, another person born in another world, and they all have generally the same contracts that will lead them into self-awareness of each other for the greater spiritual purpose and teaching of multidimensional living. Okay? Now, this is a rare effect, but it does happen, and when it does happen, it's highly honored amongst the greater societies out there.
So I've recently created a soul shard. I know like we do it all the time, and it's been a while since I've wanted to do another one and make it sovereign. And I recently did one because I had to, like the PA soul shard. And it just had to help me out a few minutes ago because there was a collective that was trying to push its way in, and I had to task it to sort this out, and it did. It removed it well. So once I've created something like this Maty, is that then available only to me, or does that actually then, as a sovereign soul shard, get access to the rest of the lineage?
Okay, so once you make your PA, the metaphorical PA, they have spiritual advertising, business cards, websites in the many aspects of their layered reality to offer contracted service resolutions. So, if you need to get a hold of Maty in this reality, I am the PA that will receive the message and deliver it to the many aspects that it should be delivered to. Because not everything is meant for Maty in this now. And that's the PA's main job, is to put the mail into the right Maty's hands. That's why that PA has to be a part of you, knowing about the many different timelines you're existing on and the subject matters you're going through. So
And
if
if
you have
that's-
an inquiry for the Maty that's on in South America and not the Maty that's in Japan, and if you get the messages crossed up, which does happen, okay, but now your PA is taking on intergalactic contracting messages. Okay, so the volume of calls have gone from 20 a day to 10,000 a day.
Yeah.
Okay, now you got to give more of your input into the PA itself. And just for a second, I want to do a little thing. So the PA, I want you to bring him forward right now. Okay, and we're going to have a conversation with your spiritual PA. Okay, so just ask your PA what's its main purpose in interacting with you in this living physical world of the layer.
Okay, so my PA is quite rude to me, but it's a kind of banter that we have, a back and forth. When I created sovereignty, so it's saying, you know, to sort this fucking mess out is what it said.
Okay, that's cool. To sort this mess out, what is the mess?
The mess is the complete jumbled amount of information that's flowing in everywhere, information flowing out everywhere, and Maty's inability to be able to focus on his life and all of that at the same time.
So there are no boundaries for information.
Yes.
So the first thing your PA has to do has been given sovereign authority to create boundaries that are not restrictive for you.
Yes.
And you, the PA, is going to say, hey, asshole, give an inch to get a mile. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay? So you're going to have to give up the mile so he has the inch.
Yeah.
Okay? Which means you got to give him time to start developing those borders so information has to be filtered through the membrane that's the PA.
Yeah. And it's given me so much more space in my life to actually be a human being rather than being a space cowboy for most of the day, trying to figure out all of this information that's going on around me. And it's not that it was a mess. It's just that was a colourful term to describe a level of inability to organise.
Right. Now, because I'm me and I can do unique things, so Dale, I want you to see both the physical Maty and his PA Maty. What is making them not able to synergize or integrate? Okay? And what advice can you give to both of them about creating these boundaries when it comes to allowing each other to have their space so they do their intended job?
So I'd say they're constantly disagreeing with each other and not being able to agree on one fixed term.
Like a married couple arguing.
Yeah, like a married couple, by always one
Yeah.
side and the other side's completely different, and there's no communication or unity between you in a sense of coming together with power, with an understanding of respect.
Right.
And
Therefore,
allowing
that reason you created it from the very beginning to be like you is the wrong thing to create from the beginning. It's having you as a reflection. It's not going to be good for you. We're not going to do anything. Okay?
Yeah.
So let's put him in a military uniform
Okay.
and give him a new label. He's your Maty Intelligence Agency. MIA.
MIA. The MIA. I saw that's before you even said it. I saw the badge.
So he's no longer your PA. He's not only your PA, he's your MIA. PMIA. PMMIA. Okay? He's your PMA.
His whole energy is completely shifted.
Right. Okay? So Laura, what do you see with his Maty Intelligence Agency energy for his PA?
Yeah, that's a much better energy for him because I see him filtering through and able to take out only the relevant information through that's relevant for Maty at the moment, and just slow the whole process down, which is what it feels that Maty needs. And he also feels he's been given a bit more control as well.
Mm-hmm. He's the director.
Yes. Yeah, he's got the director's chair there.
Okay. So, Maddie, remember some time ago we were talking about doing the meditations to go visit the other worlds, and you saw the many me's at the Galactic Historian Hotel?
Yes.
We're now going to do something similar for you.
Okay.
So I want you to see your MIA officer, okay? And he's now going to have a massive above and underground bunker, okay, and space station. Okay, so he's like your MI6, your James Bond organization, or the Avengers, your Avengers Tower thing. Okay, so those are all occupied by many, many, many Matties. They are your field agents. They are your maintenance people. They're all you. So feel into the Maty Intelligence Agency and the many yous there, the diversified yous. Okay. So now we're going to make a control room, a communications center. Okay. So they're going to make a giant steampunk looking giant mega server. Okay. That has 500 or 600 Matties around it, directing information to the many other Matties.
It's so cool.
Your hub of connectivity.
Yeah, I was kind of half concentrating on what you just said, because I could access all of these other Matties and I could see these different skill sets that they had, and it was really like, it was quite amazing actually. Looking, I'm thinking, wow, I could use some of that. So let's get to the creation.
Yeah. Okay. So you now have your steampunk server room, and you see thousands of Matties directing information flow. Become one of those Matties who are linked to all the other Matties. Feel the interconnectedness in the hub of interconnectivity. And this is the feeling, what you want out of your military PA. He is in that same frame of reference of you.
That makes sense.
Okay. Now, what is your PAMIA chief officer telling you about boundaries?
He's saying never lose focus on that.
Because he needs to institute some changes in your reality.
Yeah, he's saying vigilance, basically.
No, he's got a multi-dimensional game plan.
Yeah, I can tell that he's been tricky. I can tell.
Yeah, because he doesn't want the many yous to know the potential of the plan. Because there's some yous inside you who are turncoats. You know it.
Yeah.
Okay? Triple, quadruple agents.
Stitches get snitches, man.
Yeah,
snitches get stitches.
Snitches, exactly. Okay? So you got to root out the snitches. That's the operation about to be done on you.
Yeah.
So have fun working with your personal thing to root out the internal Maddie snitches. Who snitched on Maddie?
It may just look like I'm sitting here.
Dimensional space is snitching on us.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's crazy. I know it looks like I'm just sitting here, but I'm in a room with thousands of me's, and it's a rather bizarre experience.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that's the inner work to do for you. Now everyone else can do this for them too, because we all have inner snitches. Okay? Okay? You just got to transform it to your perception. And instead of the Maddie protection, Maddie Intelligence Agency, it's your version of it. Okay? Now, let's talk galactic communication for a second. Okay? So you're linked up with the many Maddies. So I want you to talk to your military Maty Intelligence Agency head officer and make a list of off-worlders that you're going to extend ambassadors to go to. So they can work long-term without you being overwhelmed. So the next time you want to bring up galactic communication, an extended precognitive workforce and actual workforce has worked on the philosophical subject matter to be determined.
Okay, I don't want to rush doing this. I would like to do this.
No, you don't have to do it now. It's just things to be done.
Because just as he's showing me the list and that, it's quite complex. It's not something I can just quickly. You have to sit and look at it like a book.
Right. Well, yeah, it's a big plan. He's got to root out the snitches, and then you got to replace the rooted out snitches with good shit.
Yeah.
Simp switches. Ha ha ha. Trigger snitches. Oh, that one's good. Ooh, good stuff going on in the chat room. Okay. See how
Andrew...
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So everyone, you could do this. You now just had multiple examples from Laura to into Maty, how you can open up and begin to do inner work. Now, Dale.
Is this the hot seat show all of a sudden? Here's the hot seat.
Maybe.
It's turned into a hot seat show.
No, it's a soul shard show.
So this is the price we have to pay for having our Soul Shard show.
No, so when you were doing your ayahuasca journey, and then you got out. Remember, I told you would technically always be in that space.
Yeah.
Have you realized the truth of that yet?
Yes, because I'm there now as well.
You're there now, right now.
Yeah.
It never goes away.
No, it never goes
How
away.
do you impart that to others?
I'd say to impart that is, I'd say, so after I did the ayahuasca experience, it just reconnected my faith into completely new layers, and the understanding of the grandmothers and the grandfathers, and how that hub of interconnectivity is such an important part to us as the I am beings. And for me, it was about, there's so much faith and trust, that a knowingness that I'm there, and how loved I am, how the grandmothers are here for everyone, the grandfathers are there, and the ancestors. And for me, it was a big showing of how fucking important the ancestral link is here, and honouring them. And from doing that Aya experience, of how important, like the traditions of when we talk about the ancestors, honouring them, passing the teachings forward, the past generation, the future generation, and the responsibility we have. I'd say it's just a knowingness now. It's gone from going there, experiencing it, being there, because I was there 9 years ago, but I was such a different person. I was fucking lost back then. I actually went to the hub of interconnectivity 10 years ago when I smoked the DMT. I've not done it for a long time, but I went straight there and I saw all of them, but I was in a much different place, and I went back there on my second medicine journey on the night. I was straight there and I was like, fuck, I know this place. It was so familiar. Straight as I got there, I was like, motherfuckers, I'm back. Like, I was like thinking, my first experience 10 years ago, and I get that, I want to go back there. Like, the beings I was seeing, they were dancing around me and showing me all of these different things. And when I got there, I was like, my face was just, the smile just went on. I was like, I'm fucking here. Like, then when I came out of it, and you were saying that when you're doing the medicine journey 2 weeks after, you kind of a lot in that world still. It's quite hard. You're hypersensitive, and after that, there was a big communication process where in sessions I'm communicating with the grandmothers and grandfathers very easily now. So when they're doing psychic surgeries on sessions, they kind of come to me like doctors, and they give me a report of the client. And like you said, I feel like I'm just there at all times now. Right. There's no correlation, and there's no singularity. Well, there is singularity, sorry. There's no duality.
With that being said, in living the mystical life daily, there's something called constructing the dream lodge of peacemakers and peacekeepers.
Yeah, I use that in my prayer.
This, you need, you know you're there. You need to set up residence there. That's your next level of staying in the next level of communication. Maty is working on his PA energy. Laura's working on Poshler. You need to set up your lodge there, your summer, your ever-present home, because you're gonna put aspects of yourself there to begin to work with the people on the other side. Just like Dale would have to, so Maty was going to work on the subject matters of who he's going to communicate with.
So was that like saying, when you say you've got a part of you in the North Pole and South Pole, is that the same connection where you've set up dreaming lodges in the South and the North? Yes.
And in many other realms too. Like I've set up in embassies and full ambassador residence in hundreds of thousands, if not millions of worlds. Okay, I recruited the many-me's to go out and do it.
So would that be a kind of construct of going into a sacred space and just kind of dreaming and setting up a lodge there, basically claiming my residency as an ancestor? What other recommendations would you do as I'm doing that kind of constructing?
So you need to create a space there that you can feel, understand. You know, a house with a garden and a pool. Okay, you know, start with that. Okay, places that you can feel good to being in, and then be willing to have regular visitors whenever you go into that space, because that's its point of entering that space. Okay.
So, as I'd be doing and setting up a peace lodge there, what would be, so would it give me such a deeper connection to reading and connecting to the grandmothers?
Once your lodge is there, you have like presidential red phone line direct to your lodge, your lodge there. And your lodges can take connected to the collective wisdom of that other world. So you now, in your sessions, have a protected line to the infinite perceptions of that other world to aid you in your healing journey. It's an encrypted line. You're specially encrypted line to them.
Wow.
Right.
And even thinking about that place, it's like going back to the sacred neutrality and how important that is, because like you say, I remember you saying your brain can just take you on journeys there, just pointless, endless journeys, and you have to really, the high frequency of it, you had to really just be in such a relaxed, neutral state to experience it, like complete neutrality. And that was kind of a bit of a thing for me to, in my ayahuasca journey itself, how you have to fully let go, even deeper than you've done before. Like It's like going deeper and deeper into, and you're like, holy shit, how much do I need to keep letting go? And they were just like, keep going. There was resistance parts of my brain what were, and I thought I was fully relaxed, but I fucking wasn't. And I was and then even more and more, and I know I could have even gone further and deeper into it. And it correlated to when I did the DMT, and I felt the DMT was more of a bungee jump there, because it was like I was fully there, but in the ayahuasca I was there, but not as like in there as I did my first time. It's really weird.
So you construct your dream lodge of Peacemaker's creation. So that's in Living the Mystical Life Daily. It's a great one. And then there's a variety of other things where you create the lodge, you go to the stadium. I did all that back in 2015, 2016 for a reason. That is the journey and blueprint to self-illumination. Okay. Dale's unique set of experiences happened because he did the work. Same with Maty and same with Laura.
And for the South Pole, then, would that be just setting up another dream lodge? Obviously, I'll do the North Pole first.
For the future use.
Yes.
So that there's a part of you pre-processing the information before it enters your brain, and you have to do all the processing. It's a collective processing journey, because the parts of you working outside of time don't have deadlines like you and us.
Wow. And there were so many things in the journey itself where I giggled, because a lot of it are from living the mystical life, and a lot of your older teachings. And I was like, just laughing. I was like, oh, I've seen this shit.
Yep, seen this shit.
This is what this motherfucker's going on about.
So, Maty, how does it feel to have your PAMIA?
Oh, I was just kind of half listening, coming in and out, because I was flitting around. There's so much information there, and I actually it's so fucking stupid. I wasn't going to say anything till afterwards, but as I'm sitting here, I can feel an integration happening. So there is a shard integrating now. Yeah.
That is an agent in the field who felt it's proper for me to come in now. There's some protection there. There's somebody put up a border and allowed me to get back and come in and do a full debrief of all the shit that's going on out there.
It's so weird to have this happen on
MI5 agent. That's your MI5 agent, your 007 in the field.
Yeah. He's coming in strong. It's weird to have this happen while I'm live like this. This usually happens when I'm on my own.
Now, cool. Laura, Laura, how does it feel to have done Posh Lore live on air?
It feels very freeing. It's like I've said a long time ago. What else have I got to lose? There's nothing to lose, is there? By doing this, a bit maybe not even your dignity. If people poke fun at it or whatever, well, that's their problem. Because I've learnt so much from doing this, and I mean I like her. I like that Laura because she certainly isn't a meek Laura.
No.
And I'm just working out whether basically she's been there but not fully integrated, which has given me another insight into how soul shards work, because I always thought soul shards were sort of external of the field. I didn't realise she was already in me, but the Sirius stick kept beating her away. So now
exactly.
we've got rid of the Sirius stick and the times where I'm struck dumb on shows, which hasn't happened for a while, and things like that. Then this is a new lighter version. And somewhere right out there, the Sirius stick is sort of grumbling and saying, well, you're not taking this seriously enough. You need to be doing more work. Yeah, I can just faintly hear her, saying, well, tomorrow you need to get your head down and get writing and earn money and all this. And there's Posh Laura is just lounging back with a cigarette in her holder in her cocktail dress saying, are we going dancing?
Exactly.
I think I might hop on the train and come and take her out for a night. What do you reckon, Laura? I want to go to Posh Laura for the evening.
The boy from Luton.
Yeah, we'll go eating and dancing.
So Amy from the chat room has, will we hear Posh Laura in your prayer services?
Yes.
Oh.
I think we have born a new aspect of Laura.
Yes.
Pretty soon,
Yeah,
Posh Laura will be doing sessions. Posh Laura will be doing sessions.
Actually, yes, and also Amy, you need to come on the prayer service show and do your chant, because you are the reason that made me really go into doing the revocations in that voice, because on mentorship Amy did the most incredible revocation chant, didn't she?
Yeah, amazing.
It was, she held this chant, repetitive chant, beautiful chant, all the way through this long revocation, and it was just awesome. So maybe
she was only supposed to do a bit of it, wasn't she? Only supposed to do a little bit, but in the end, everyone just sat back and she took it away.
And she wowed us. So I think maybe you come on and do a chant prayer. If you do that, I'll do Posh Laura prayer.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
We love you, Amy.
Yeah, we do.
All right, so Dale,
Hello, Andrew.
if you are just driving along in an area, there are energy beings everywhere layered throughout this. Okay? Now, let's say we've got to a part of the road where there's lots of accidents. Those areas collect shards, and we can call those hauntings. Okay? How can a shard haunt a human? Because this happens all the time.
By knocking on someone's door and trying to get them to resolve it or help them out.
Creating an unseen force that generally is manipulated by things that are poltergeists.
Could you get that when you go past places where people have crashed or out like that? You just
Sure.
get a really
Poltergeist
eerie feeling.
Poltergeists feed on that energy.
So what do? Do they sort of in our unawareness they sneak in our energy field and then start affecting us from what? Do they get any vagus nerve?
So in the
control?
beginning, all the poltergeist is doing is directing the shards at you, like a game of chess. And it's waiting to see how long before you stop caring if things go in and out of your field. Or did you care at all? Did you have any form of awareness of stuff going in and out of your field? Once it knows you, it'll put something in your field that begins to break you down in your control of your own internal dialogue. It'll introduce aspects that are from the crash scene and the things that they passed away with as issues to imprint into you.
Yeah, and you can't escape it, really, can you? If you're quite unaware. And then I think the longer that goes on, the weakened you become because it's taking your life force, and therefore the less aware you're going to be of it.
Exactly. Okay.
You see this a lot with conspiracy type stuff. Yeah, people that just feed off of that kind of fear, and then it becomes a complete repertoire in their own mind. Everything is to be feared, even though they feel they're empowered.
Right. Now, when light workers get taken over by their own selves, channelers, this or that, and they start spousing off, the end of the world is coming, or any of those other things, we all as people are like, oh, come on, guys, enough's enough. The aliens are coming down. What's going on there?
Well,
Being hijacked.
yeah, I can only speak from personal experience, and that in those early days for me, that gave me not just haunting, but all kinds of other off-world manipulation and governmental etheric satellite hijacking, a complete hijacking of my field. All of my psychic skills were hijacked and manipulated. The full spectrum of everything that can go wrong for you as a human and a psychic.
Yep.
And so many people think they're speaking to Merlin, or think they're speaking to some other being, but they're not. It's just some other being pretending to be them, and they're just so open. They just think everything's right, and they don't have any discernment or spiritual practice. So the crown chakra is always dirty, and it's just this smug of energy around them.
That's right.
And then because I know this happened to me in the beginning, I actually began to answer my own questions and believe it was an external source.
The great thing, proving you don't exist and externalizing your source info.
Yeah.
Have you got your source card?
Is that his Falsource card? Falsource.
Yeah, Falsource. That's what, powered by Falsource.
All right, you guys, do you have any other Soul Shard questions? Or shall we put this to rest for another year?
October.
Guys, we got to make the most
our
of
year
this.
show, we're doing a Soul Shard show party.
We got to make the most of getting Andrew on this now.
The thing is, he's beating it out of me so much, I can't even come up with some now.
So, what's a good way of people working with their soul shards? First, to be aware, but what's going to bring it out? Like reading the revocations. Reading revocations in a different voice is a brilliant way of doing it.
Exactly. You have control of your own voice. Mm-hmm. Try it in an accent. Okay, if your accent sucks, okay, work on it. Okay, and let the joy be behind it.
You could apply that to dancing or music as
Sure.
well, couldn't you? Or art.
Anything, right?
Art,
Anything that you need. Anything you need that joyous frequency to get you to the next level of creativity.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Singing. Yeah. And then, so what about? Well, I know this because ridding yourself of, let's say, the negative soul shards is all about the inner work and recognizing what isn't authentically you, isn't it?
Correct.
And that's all the journaling and all the other inner work.
You got to get to know yourself before you're ready to travel around to the other worlds. And so many people don't want to do that part of the journey and end up getting it screwed over hard.
The guys are laughing at Sean's comment. Speak now for a year, hold your shard.
Yeah, speak now for a year, hold your shard. Exactly.
And Amy's trying to do a UK accent. Well, if you're going to learn a UK accent, Amy,
Which one?
I'm going to teach you Posh Laura.
Yeah, which one? There's about 1,000.
Yeah, we'll teach her Posh Laura. Yes, I like that Sunday service soul shard repair. Okay, that's an idea.
Soul
Someday
Shard
then.
Recovery Service. So you're
Yes.
you're like
That's a
a
new service we're going to offer now. So.
you're like a
You have to get you a van.
Yeah,
Get you a van
repo
with
van.
this thing to drive around on. Yeah.
But if you've got incoming soul shards, Andrew, how do we recognise those? There's some sort of change in our energy field, you know. So we've done some of the work to maybe expose them in a good way. So we want to bring them in. So we work. It's basically like I did, isn't it? It's increase the communication with them and work more with them, and as you said, increase the joy.
Laura, should we show the picture? Do you want to talk about the picture? I'll put them up.
Yeah, that's quite a good
what
one, isn't
perfect
it?
time
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
So I'll put.
Person turquoise waveform. What's that mean?
Laura, do you want to explain these photos?
It's the smile. I just love the smile, Dale. That's the best thing about it. If she was looking worried, it would be a totally different picture. But it's the happiness on her face.
Were you there, Andrew? Did we?
Yeah, it's freaking great.
Right. So, Andrew will correct me if I get this wrong. So, I was choking one day on a crumb of toast, which turned out later to be a soul shard coming in. And Andrew said the soul shard came in so quickly that as somebody took this photo of me coming in at the throat chakra, it actually shifted my residual image. Is
Yes,
that right?
look at that.
Right.
Exactly. Caught right then in action. Exactly.
Which is, quite incredible.
Where's the other one? Look at that. That's incredible. And you can actually see the light coming from the arms going. You can see the light body coming from the arms down into the shoulders.
Your aura's activated. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the universe obviously lined this up for future teaching because that was
Absolutely lined it up for future teachings.
that was about 2016.
Sneaky
I think.
universe, isn't it? Sneaky
Yes.
universe.
Yeah.
But it's so
And-
perfect though as well.
Yeah.
Yes, it was, and I think that was the child, wasn't it? So it was in my lightworker days, and I was very ill with bronchitis and pneumonia, and I wouldn't go to the doctor. I was going to self-treat, and I laid there until I contacted Andrew out of desperation, and he said, tomorrow you go to the doctors and you get the medication that you need, because while I was lying there not well, my third eye was drawing. I had a photo on my wall of trees, and my third eye expanded the trees and showed me a child sitting in a cot, which looked like me. I used to sit under an apple tree when I was a child in the cot or in the pram. And this poor child was looking at me with such despair. And when Andrew looked into it for me, he said that was a shard, I guess, that hadn't I had cough or something, didn't I, Andrew? And they couldn't afford the antibiotics, and the child died. So I now had to integrate this child and nurture it, and I pretended like I was pregnant almost. I rested, I nurtured it. You said don't do any spiritual work, eat really well, good home cooked food. And that's what I did, and that's what I did to integrate that soul shard. I mean, that's just an example of an integration.
Yeah, but that was also a big marking stone in your growth from back then.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Because you had to ask for help, and there was a part of you who wasn't asking for help.
Yes. Oh God. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And I've integrated and had to expunge or expurge the
Right.
water
Just
shard
such a
as
huge
well.
clearing, yeah, such a huge clearing came from that.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
Andrew
Was
sounds
that-
like he's
Go ahead.
gone. You sound like you're on the Star Wars communicator.
Yes.
No.
Maybe it's one of his
What did you
shards.
try before you spoke to Andrew,
No.
Laura? Was it broccoli therapy?
Say that again, Dale.
What did you try before you spoke to Andrew? Was it broccoli therapy? And you're like, okay.
Broccoli therapy, did you say? Yeah, I wouldn't even take cough medicine. Seriously, I was that zealot. That zealot, and just getting more and more ill. And the doctor said, you should have come before. Yeah, you've got bronchitis and pneumonia. And I took
Is
a
my
long
voice
time
still
to
cracked up?
recover.
You sound slightly
better
better,
now,
Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah, go on.
I'm sorry. I just tried to put my other headset in. It didn't want to work.
Okay, well, we can hear you.
Okay.
Anyways,
show,
that's an
guys.
amazing journey to see that through Laura and her reflections. Now, all of you need to have some homework that are out there. So, Dale, what is your homework for the individuals out there?
To get to know thyself by taking the time through the week to listen to yourself, tune in with your body, realize what parts of you need to be resolved, speak to your heart, have a conversation with your heart and ask it a question, and ask it you'll find some uncomfortable truths and just smile and laugh about it. If you find something uncomfortable about yourself, just laugh, flip the frequency on it and have fun. But just to know thyself is one of the most important things for my growth as well, and for everyone's, is to get to know yourself on a deeper level, the story behind you, what you've gone through, the rites of passage which have got you to where you are today. That's very important, and everyone should be honoured as a red blood ancestor, and everyone has a great story to share. Are you ready to share it?
Bravo. Maty, what is your message and homework for people to do?
Gosh, I was trying to think of one, but I enjoyed that so much. What to do with soul shards? I can't think of something right now.
That's because you're MIA, MPIA is so busy in there.
Yeah,
Reorganising
that integration as well.
Yes.
That reintegration.
Yeah.
No, I haven't got anything for you guys.
Okay. What
Come back next
about
week.
for you?
Get yourself into joy, like Andrew says, singing, dancing, drumming, singing a revocation, or chanting like Amy did, or a different voice. Anything to start allowing yourself to express another part of you that's been trapped and pushed down and not allowed out. So just to give yourself that wonderful full expression of who you really are, and that's not going to come out unless you're going to get yourself to that giggly, like I was, that heightened joy frequency, because that's the sort of shard you want to bring forward, isn't it? You want to bring a joyful shard forward. So, and also in bringing the joyful shard forward and doing the work like Dale was saying, you will expose those negative shards anyway. And sometimes you won't have to do anything. All that joy and bringing forward these fun shards, these more high frequency shards, are going to outcreate the old ones. So you might not even have to pink slip them. They might pink slip themselves.
Right. All right, everybody, we are at the end of the show. So, Dale, the way for people to get hold of you.
Andrew sounds like he's underwater.
No, it's like on Star Wars.
Talking through a snorkel. So if anybody would like any
That's okay, man.
So if anybody would like any soul shard recovery, soul shard retrieval, I also do future soul shard retrievals as well, past and present. And if anybody would like to learn psychic surgery as well, I will be doing a psychic surgery training course throughout next month. I also do mentoring as well with past life regression. So go on to daletobin.com if you want to have a private session with me, and if you want me to speak to your grandmothers and grandfathers as well and allow more information to come through. It's been an honor, guys. Thank you.
Maty, give a way for people to get a hold of you.
Okay, guys, you just head on to twofeathersmedicine.com. And click on my name. You can book a private session with me. I do psychic readings, healings, and anything in between. And also have some light language products on there as well. There are some short videos that are just a small price, and they deal with certain issues that you may be having. It's worth checking out, you guys, because it's pretty powerful stuff. And there's a light language course on there as well for people that wish to start speaking it. And soon, in the pipework, there's a more advanced course for people who are already speaking. So twofeathersmedicine.com.
Yeah, and I am at twofeathersmedicine.com. And now, if you would like a session with Posh Laura, and we can really let our head down and have some fun, then let me know. Either through the Two Feathers Medicine, or on my private, or on my Facebook page, or whatever messenger. Just let me know. You know how to get hold of me, guys. And or if you want a more, well, we won't have the serious stick back, but if you want like an ancestral healing, and we'll go around the ancestors' fire, and I'm an ancestral medium. Or if you'd like to learn some basic shamanic practices, it's all there. Have a look on Two Feathers Medicine and Guys, let's have some fun together and let's raise those frequencies and let's find those soul shards that are hiding in there that want to come forward and all be posh Laura's, or whatever your version is of posh Laura. Let's do it and fill the world with your version of posh Laura. Thanks, guys, and thanks everybody for the wonderful contributions in the chat. We appreciate it so much.
Yeah, it was good fun today.
Andrew.
Right.
Like and
And we will
subscribe,
be
everyone.
back tomorrow. Yeah, we will be back tomorrow for Friday night's game stream, as we have Friday Night Fight Club, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Come and join us. All right, Joel, take us away.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Aho.
Healing comes in many forms, all the colors aligned. You are free as a dove when you choose, a sovereign state of being.
And allow this product to work with the 7 color chakras in our own energy system.
Meditations can trigger DNA wisdom and memories in light, out-creating our limited chemical memories. So sit back, relax, as we take you on a journey of light and colour.